Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jaleesa. This is Jaleesa Reads, your space for Black books, real life, and everything in between. And today I want to talk about audiobooks, okay? Because I'm a new audiobook girly. I think I've always sparingly listened to audiobooks, but it is now becoming like one of my preferred methods to read. So before I get into, because I do have some recs and I want to tell y'all kind of where I get my audiobooks from. Before we get over there, I do need to establish one thing. Over here on this channel, audiobooks are reading, period. Okay? We're not ableist. If you comprehending that book, you reading that book. Okay? We'll just leave it there. So where do I get my audiobooks from? The first places that I go when I'm looking for an audiobook are Libby and Hoopla. Those are apps from your library. Do you have a library card? If not, go get a library card. They're free. They are free. And they also offer a ton of free services, like a shit ton of audiobooks that you can borrow, just like if you were going to the regular library. I will say Hoopla tends to have options sooner compared to my Libby. A lot of my Black indie audiobooks that I listen to, I get most of those on Hoopla. More traditional releases, I tend to find a bit easier over on Libby. Hoopla, you don't have to wait for anybody else to finish. Libby is more like a traditional library where if somebody has already checked that book out and they only have X amount of copies, then you're going to have to wait your turn. There are some books that I've been waiting months for, and it's okay. They always come when I'm ready. And now even if the book, it does become my turn, I can suspend my hold until I'm ready and it puts me right back at the top of the line. So go there. If you want to purchase audiobooks, obviously there's Audible, which is connected to Amazon. And also, can we stop for 1 second? Audible is the platform in which you can purchase and listen to audiobooks. Audibles are not audiobooks. I see a lot of people oh, I'm gonna listen to that Audible. No, you're gonna listen to the audiobook on Audible. Audible is the vehicle of which you're getting to your audiobook. I don't know. I be seeing that a lot and I'm no, wait, because now I'm confused. So obviously there's Audible. There are, I guess, depending on how you look at it, there are some perks to Audible. I know Audible Originals is something that a lot of people really like. But I switched my audiobook subscription over to Libro FM earlier this year. And I think what I like most about Libro FM is it allows me to support an independent bookstore. So I'm able, with all of my purchases, with the credits that I use, I'm able to support a better day bookstore that's local to us here in Atlanta. So that's where I get my audiobooks from. There are plenty of ways for you to get a free audiobook. Please do not pirate them. Spotify, you can listen to audiobooks over there. Some authors do put their audiobooks on YouTube, but if you just come across a person on YouTube reading an audiobook, that is illegal. They cannot do that. Okay? So do your research if you see it, because sometimes authors let their audiobooks be over here, but majority of the time, if it's just a random person reading a book, they're not supposed to be doing that. All right? Cut that shit out. Okay, so there's audiobooks. A few things. I listen to audiobooks primarily in the car and while I'm working. And when I'm doing chores and stuff, dishes, if I'm laying outside, I can always put an audiobook on and I'll be just fine. Anyways, I have some recommendations for you. Some of my favorite narrators, just off the top of my head. So there's Wesley Siobhan. There is Emmanuel Ingram, Sharif Stevens, Adam Lazar-White, Nicole Smalls, Trey Taylor, Miles Washington, Janice Abbott Pratt. I like Jacoby DM, Winston James. Yeah, there are more that I like. Now, there are some narrators we just don't get along. And it's unfortunate because that just means I can't listen to the books that they narrate. But you'll learn kind of what works for you as far as narration is concerned and what doesn't. Oh, speed, right? Okay, so here's the thing. When I first started listening to audiobooks, I was listening at a 1, and I think that's why I didn't like it, because I don't think I realized hey girl, you can speed it up. I thought it would get so fast that it would be very difficult for me to understand what was being said. That is not the case. I now listen, my sweet spot is 1.65. That's pretty much the same time that I would read with my eyes. And the way I found that out, I was reading, was it Legendborn? I think it might have been Legendborn. I was immersive reading Legendborn. So immersive reading is when you're reading with your eyes and your ears at the same time. So you're listening to the audiobook while following along with either the physical or the ebook. And like, I was reading much faster than the narration, so I sped it up and I kept speeding it up until they pretty much match. Now, also, I will say there are some narrators that read faster than others. So like, I have to adjust based on like who's reading. There are some narrators I automatically know like, hey, I'm gonna have to drop this to like a 1.5. And then there's some I'm like, I'm gonna have to probably put this at like a 1.7. Nonetheless, you'll figure it out. Give audiobooks a chance. And I have a list here that I think, you know, it's got a little bit of lots of things. There's some fantasy, some historical fiction, some thriller, some justice, some romance, a little drama, you know, a little bit of everything. Okay, so first, The Birth of a Dynasty, written by Chinaza Badu. It's narrated by Adinrele Ojo. Woo! When I tell y'all, I don't know how many characters she narrated in this book, but every single character sounded different. Like it was a distinct difference, like a phenomenal narration performance, like a phenomenal performance. Then there's Zeal by Morgan Jerkins. That is performed by January LaVoy and Shayna Small. The Legendborn cycle. So Legendborn and Bloodmarked are both narrated by Johnny's Abbott Pratt. For the third book, it's a full cast. So we added Andrew Iden, Hillary Huber, Tim Page, and Adinrele Ojo. Then you have The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. That was narrated by Johnny's Abbott Pratt. Y'all gonna hear her name a lot. She's fantastic. We Don't Talk About Carol by Kristen Elberry. That was narrated by Nicole Cash. That's like a historical thriller. Really good. Like it's really good. 1201 by Bella J. This is dual narration. That was narrated by Emmanuel Ingram and Madison C. Marie. Now, dual narration means that like the male narrator is reading everything the male says and the female narrator is reading everything the female says. So like if you're in the MMC's POV, but the FMC says something, you're going to hear her voice. I really like it. And full cast means that there is someone cast for each character. I don't think I clarified that. I'm still learning these things and could possibly be wrong. So if I am, you can feel free to gently correct me in the comments. Okay. Where was I? Okay, we'll just say Ken again. So Ken is Ken written by Tayari Jones, narrated by Angel Peen and Ashley J. Hobbs. Honey and Spice by Bolu Babalola. Look, I love the Mandem. I had a good time down there. That was narrated by Weruche Opia. The Muted Hopelessness series by Love Belvin. This is probably my favorite duet. And that is Wesley Siobhan and Emmanuel Ingram. They're magic together. They just are. Then you have the Danger series by India Carter, which is Tempted by Danger, Captivated by Danger, and Intrigued by Danger. All three books were performed by Winston James and Tree Taylor. The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. This was probably the first audiobook that I listened to all the way through. Like, I think I started it on a Monday and I was like, oh, this will probably take me a couple days to finish. No, I finished it that Monday. I was like, no, I have to get through this. And I literally sat in my living room with my headphones on and finished it. It was so good. But this is a full cast production. It is narrated by J.D. Jackson, Sarah Molo Christensen, Joy Nash, Christopher Salazar, and Carmelina White. Carmelina White, who, if you watch The Proud Family, that's Dejanay. If you watch A Different World, it's Charmaine. Y'all remember Charmaine from The Cosby Show in A Different World? Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. That's narrated by Adam Lazar White, who, if you watched Living Single, remember in season 1 when Khadijah was dating that teacher named Alonzo? That's Adam Lazar White. When I made that connection, I was like, oh my God, it's Alonzo. He's fantastic. He is fantastic at narration. Like, oh, the talent. Blood Debts and Blood Justice by Terry J. Benton Walker. This is another full cast. This is Bonnie Turpin, Janice Abbott Pratt, Torian Brackett, and Zeno Robinson. Then you have Then Came You by Dylan Allen. This is a romance that's narrated by Zeta Allred and Mark Ibulu. Last Stop from Innocence by Takira Allen, which is a story I was scared to read, and I'm not ashamed to say that. It was so good, so nostalgic. It really reminds you of like that first summer that you fall in love. That was narrated by Shayna Smalls. Shayna Small, that was good. Dominion, I highly suggest immersive reading Dominion. So again, immersive reading is when you have the audiobook playing, but you're also reading along with your eyes, whether it be physical or ebook. Dominion is written by Addie E. Kitchens. It was performed by Andre Giles, Angel Peen, Bonnie Turpin, and Deonn Graham. And then finally, Blood at the Root. It's a series. Books 1 and 2 are out. Book 3 comes out later on this year. This is written by Ladarian Williams. This one is very funny because I got a physical arc of this book and I was really excited. I heard, it's a Black orphan boy. He finds out that he has gotten into this magical HBCU and he has all this magic. It was right up my alley, right? When I opened that physical book and I started reading it, I had to put it down. And I think it's because there was just, it's about a 17-year-old boy. So like, obviously he talks like a 17-year-old boy, but me reading it and hearing it in my own voice, I was not connecting to it. When I turned that audiobook on though, I was locked in. What Jalen Hill does with Malik that is some good shit right there. Like that is acting. So yeah, those are just a few of my favorite audiobooks. Let me know in the comments what audiobooks you've been listening to. And I will talk to y'all a little bit later. Thank you for sharing some of your day with me. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.